Hello, my name is Rick Hoover, and you are watching the very first broadcast of Progressive Thinking on the Altoona Public Access Channel. On today's show, we will be discussing the topic of medical cannabis, or as you may know it, medical marijuana. But first, I want to give you a little background of exactly what Progressive Thinking is about and why I thought it was necessary to have this program. I've grown up in Altoona my entire life, and the one thing I can say about the Altoona area is we don't have a lot of diversity when it comes to political ideology in the area. So I thought it was important to get maybe a Democratic point of view. And when I say a Democratic point of view, I mean something besides what we've been dealing with for the past 50 years in the area. So what we're going to do over the next couple months is we're going to air different issues that are both social issues or issues that are close to my heart when it comes to public policy and how things are dealt with in the Altoona area. Now, in the first segment today, what I'm going to do is cover some hot topics, some things that are in the news. In the second segment and the third segment, I have some very special guests with me today, and we are going to be discussing the topic of medical cannabis so that we can understand exactly where the state legislature, where the process is, and how we're dealing with this topic to try to get this passed. That being said, let's dig right into hot topics. In the Altoona area right now, we've recently had an election. We elected our first full-time mayor, Mr. Matthew Pacifico. And talking about diversity, I went to the Altoona City Council website, and I noticed we had 7 members of the City Council, including Mayor Pacifico. And when I looked, there wasn't a lot of diversity. There were 6 white men. There's 1 African American who was appointed by, I believe, the mayor. And the one thing I noticed beside everybody's name was an R. There wasn't a D in the entire group. So then I looked at it and I thought to myself, well, there's got to be a little diversity in this area, doesn't there? So then I looked, who is our state rep? Well, we have Mr. John McGinnis. John McGinnis is a Republican who took over for Rick Eichelberg. I'm sorry, he took over for, come on people, help me. Somebody, anybody. He took over for Rick Geist, thank you. And then I looked the other side, we see Mr. Eichelberger. Well, Mr. Eichelberger took over for, come on people again. Who was it? Come on. Somebody, it was for Jubileer, Bob Jubileer. So then I look, and he's, by the way, another Republican who was in office for, let's say, 20 years, Jubileer at least. So Eichelberger has now been in office since he took over. Then we go out to the Cove, and we look at Mr. Bill Schuster. Bill Schuster, who is a Republican, who took over for, who did he take over for? Mr. Bud Schuster. Yes, his father, who was in office since maybe 1920, I don't know. I know that's wrong, but it's been a long time. So my question to the people of the Altoona area is simple. If you are not happy with the representation you have in office, or with the high taxes, or with the lack of jobs, or with the lack of, well, no, you're not really upset about the diversity. But if you're upset about that idea, who's been driving the bus for the past 60 years? Who's been driving the bus? Well, it's been the Republican Party. See, we have either extreme conservatives, and those extreme conservatives are the ones who listen to Rush Limbaugh during the day, and they watch Fox News at night. And then we have what I would like to say regular conservatives who listen to Sean Hannity during the day and watch Fox News during the night. If we ever hope to change the Altoona system and the way it is with government, what we need to do is start going away from the same people we keep electing time and time again. This is the point of view I think is important to bring out in this show. If you keep doing the same thing time and time again and hope for a different result, that is the definition of insanity. Now, let's go with the national level. It is today, it is Wednesday, we just had another primary, and who's in the front lead right now for the Republican candidacy for the President of the United States? Mr. Donald Trump. Yes, Mr. Donald Trump, people. This isn't a joke. The reality star is now the front runner for the Republican Party, and he's probably going to get the nomination at this point. That's what it looks like. Maybe I'll be proved wrong by some miracle. So we have Donald Trump, and on the Democratic side, we have two people running, Mr. Bernie Sanders and Miss Hillary Clinton. So what I'm foreseeing as it sits right now is we've got Donald Trump going against Hillary Clinton. Really, people? Is that what we're going to do? But it looks like that's what it's going to turn out to be. I wanted to touch briefly on this topic with Donald Trump. The angle that he's been working on for the past 6 months is fear. That's it. If you remember correctly, he was the original birther. He was the one who questioned President Barack Obama's birthplace, sent the investigators to Hawaii. He wanted to come back and find out that he wasn't born in America, which would delegitimize his presidency. Since that time, in running for office, what has he done now? We've demonized the Hispanics. We've demonized Black Lives Matter. Who else are we demonizing? Now they're going after Beyonce. He's also questioning Mr. Cruz's birthplace and whether or not he is legitimate to run for president. And now I understand he's actually questioning Marco Rubio. So we are in for a fun-filled 8 months leading up to the election in November of 2016. So that is just a brief overview of what I wanted to cover in the hot topics this morning. And in our second segment, we're going to go to break. And in the second segment, when we come back, I'm going to introduce you to two very important warriors who are fighting to get medical cannabis approved for the state legislature in Pennsylvania and exactly what you can do to get involved. So right now, we'll go to break. And when we come back, I want to introduce you to my special guests.
Something's not right.
My first symptoms were
constant tingling in my toes.
my legs, sometimes they'll go numb.
Double vision.
They said you have multiple sclerosis.
Well, the beginning is the hardest time.
Kind of had to get a grasp on reality.
I had to adapt and change very rapidly.
I had to learn how to drive with my hands. Yeah, that was interesting.
I was a dancer. I don't see walking the way I walk any different than doing a dance. It just looks different. It's a different dance.
You see me have an off day, it doesn't take away from who I am.
A symptom may cause you not to be able to do that anymore. And at one point, I wasn't able to do any of those.
But I would exercise every day.
Since I've been cycling, it's definitely helped my walking.
To make a lot of changes in my life and just adapt to it.
I'm going to acknowledge its presence. I'm not going to discount it. But at the same time, I'm going to try my best to not let it stop me.
It's a fantastic opportunity to be working together with a common goal of curing MS, and sharing is the key.
Welcome back to Progressive Thinking on the Altoona Public Access Channel. Now in this segment, I'm going to introduce you to my special guests, Mr. Ryan Hollingsworth, who is active in medical cannabis, trying to get legislation put through, and Miss Christine Billett, who is also very active in the medical cannabis movement. So what I'll do is turn the floor over first to Christine Billett. I'd like you to introduce yourself. Tell us exactly how you first became interested in medical cannabis, and we'll go from there. Give us a brief biography.
Okay, my name's actually Christy.
Well, let's go back to that. Hi, Christy.
Hi, nice to meet you, Rick. I'm the founder and executive director of Pennsylvanians for Safe Access. I got into the medical cannabis movement approximately 6 years ago. Around 2010, we started doing some progressive, getting bills introduced and such in 2009, and I had done some phone banking and such in 2010. So I've been working on it for around 6 years now, and kind of dropped out while I had my kids. And then in 2011, we started real hard again. I was working on a John Hanger for Governor campaign that really got medical cannabis to the front line of the election portion of where we were going with things. He ended up conceding to Governor Wolf, and then Wolf took the Democratic nomination and ended up winning over Rendell.
Can I ask you, one of the things I found out with most people who are involved in this movement, what was your interest? What got you involved in this movement?
My niece died at 18 months old of leukemia, And the more research you do, the more things you learn it can help. And the more research I did, I realized that there could be so many lives saved with different options. You know, we're not just talking about one condition, we're talking about thousands of conditions that people don't have to die from, that people can be saved with cannabis oil or different products or different, you know, dilutions of the cannabis products. And I just figured if I could fight and be a voice for people who couldn't stand up, who may not no longer be here, like my niece, or other people that I've met along this road, if I could stand for them when they couldn't, then that was what I needed to do to help people.
And the curious thing, that's what I seem to find out. People get involved when it hits close to home. Like your niece, myself, I'm dealing with a progressive disease, multiple sclerosis, and talking to many people who've dealt with it and have been able to utilize medical cannabis in the other states. That's why this has become a journey for me.
Absolutely.
Now you are on the front lines.
Yeah.
You are the one, when I go on Facebook and I look at the actions both you and Ryan are taking, I see you all the time in Harrisburg. You're down there bugging the legislature. Yeah. Tell me, whenever you first did that, how has that changed, let's say, over the past year when it comes to the opposition or the people willing to be open-minded about medical cannabis?
The first actual event that I did in Harrisburg was a petition delivery with the Philadelphia Normal and Derek Rosenwig. We had a petition with so many signatures that we were delivering to Mike Turzai, which is in charge of our bill again. But this was Senate Bill 1182 2 years ago. Was that 2 years ago? At the end of the season, it was like October or November, we had went down with the petition. It had already been passed through the Senate at that point. Senate Bill 1182 had went through. We were trying to get it to the House floor for a vote. At that point, we knew already that we had a lot of support in the House, but leadership decided that they did not want to run the bill. So it ended up
Now, when you say leadership,
squashed.
who are you specifically referring to?
Mike Turzai, Matt Baker,
okay.
The lead Republicans in office at that point.
Okay. Now, how did they? How did they do that? Was it a roadblock? How were they able to block legislation?
Well, Mike Turzai is the Speaker of the House now, so he's in charge of what bills actually run on the floor. You have your majority leader, which is Dave Reed now. And in this session, he's been a great warrior for us. I truly believe if it wasn't for the actions that Dave Reed's taken so far, we wouldn't be where we are. We are expecting a vote, hopefully on the House floor the week of March 14th. I know there's some amendments we need to get through and get those voted through, but once the amendments are pinned down of what's going to stay and what's going to go, they should take it to the House floor for a vote, and I believe that we have the votes to pass it.
Thank you. Now I'll introduce, you take the floor, give us a brief history of exactly how you got involved in the movement, what you hope to accomplish over your actions of going to Harrisburg monthly, weekly. Just give us a brief background of how you got into this and where you hope it goes.
Oh, my name is Ryan Hollingsworth.
I'm sorry, Ryan.
That's okay, Rick. I started, actually joined with a few groups, Normal, Marijuana Prohibition Policy Project, 96, 97. I was always an advocate for it. But till, like you said, when it hit home, my mother had fought cancer for 18 years, so that's when I truly came out to be a full advocate and tried to fight and learned because of the reefer madness over the past 70 years and what they've been.
For those who might not know that, Reefer Madness was a film that was put out in the 1950s, I believe it was, and basically it was to demonize cannabis or marijuana, as it has now been termed. So that was a driving force for you, looking at that and seeing that, and your mother going through a terminal illness.
Yeah, when, there's medicine out there that heals, and for yourself, multiple sclerosis. At the point cancer, I was going to the hospital daily, from 8 to 5 every day. They're giving chemo and radiation and all these pills, and they're pumping full of people full of these medications that weren't helping them. So when I knew that oil and the stories were coming out that the cannabis oil was healing people, actually saving their lives. It's killing cancer. And we have resistance here in Blair County and no compassion that there wasn't a whole lot of people coming out to speak about it. So I felt the need to get up there, and my mother dying from it, it really pushed me to speak out and to go to find